This article describes scapegoat in its traditional historical sense. For scapegoat in the more modern social psychological sense of scapegoating, see scapegoating. Scapegoat derives from the Common English translation of the Hebrew term azazel, which occurs in Leviticus 16:8 after the prefix la. And Aaron shall place lots upon the two he-goats, one lot for the Lord, and the other lot, for Azazel. In ancient Greece, a cripple or beggar or criminal was cast out of the community either in response to a natural disaster or in response to a calendrical crisis. In the Bible, the goat for Azazel was a goat that was designated to be outcast in the desert as part of the ceremonies of the Day of Atonement, that began during the Exodus with the original tabernacle and continued through the times of the temples in Jerusalem. In psychology and sociology, the practice of selecting someone as a scapegoat has led to the concept of scapegoating. Etymology. The verb to scapegoat is a modern intransitive or transitive coinage from the older transitive verb noun construction to make a scapegoat. Scapegoat derives from the Common English translation of the Hebrew term azazel, which occurs in Leviticus 16:8 after the prefix la. The lexicographer Gesenius and Brown Driver Briggs Hebrew lexicon give l'azazel as a reduplicative intensive of the stem azel remove, hence l'azazel, for entire removal. This reading is supported by the Greek Old Testament translation as the sender away. And Aaron shall cast lots over the two goats, one lot for the Lord and the other lot for Azazel. 1. Footnote 1, 16:8. The meaning of Azazel is uncertain. ESV. Alternatively, broadly contemporary with the Septuagint, the said epigraphical Book of Enoch may preserve Azazel as the name of a fallen angel. English Christian Bible versions traditionally follow the translation of the Septuagint and Latin Vulgate, which interpret Azazel as the goat that departs. William Tyndale rendered the Latin as scapegoat in his 1530 Bible. This translation was followed by following versions up to the King James Version of the Bible in 1611, and Aaron shall cast lots upon the two goats. One lot for the Lord, and the other lot for the scapegoat. Several modern versions however either follow the reading as a demon, Azazel, or footnote for Azazel. As an alternative reading, Jewish sources in the Talmud give the etymology of Azazel as a compound of az, strong or rough, and el, mighty, that the goat was sent from the most rugged or strongest of mountains. From the Targums onwards, the term Azazel was also seen by some rabbinical commentators as the name of a Hebrew demon, angelic force, or pagan deity. The two readings are still disputed today. History. Ancient Syria, a concept superficially similar to the biblical scapegoat, is attested in two ritual texts in archives at Ebla of the 24th century BC. They were connected with ritual purification on the occasion of the king's wedding. In them, a she-goat with a silver bracelet hung from her neck was driven forth into the wasteland of Olni. And the report of the ritual involves the whole community. Such elimination rites, in which an animal, without confession of sins, is the vehicle of evils that are chased from the community, are widely attested in the ancient Near East. Ancient Greece. The ancient Greeks practiced a scapegoating rite in which a cripple or beggar or criminal was cast out of the community either in response to a natural disaster or in response to a calendrical crisis. The scholia refer to the pharmakos being killed, but many scholars reject this, and argue that the earliest evidence only show the pharmakos being stoned, beaten and driven from the community. The Bible, the scapegoat was a goat that was designated azazel, either for absolute removal, or possibly for Azazel, and outcast in the desert as part of the ceremonies of the Day of Atonement, that began during the Exodus with the original tabernacle and continued through the times of the temples in Jerusalem. Throughout the year, the sins of the ancient Israelites were daily transferred to the regular sin offerings as outlined in the Torah in Leviticus ch. 16. Once a year, on the 10th day of the 7th month in the Jewish calendar, the Day of Atonement, the high priest of Israel sacrificed a bull for a sin offering for his own sins. Subsequently he took two goats and presented them at the door of the tabernacle with a view to dealing with the corporate sins of God's people, the nation of Israel. Two goats were chosen by lot, one to be the Lord's goat, which was offered as a blood sacrifice, and the other to be the azazel scapegoat to be sent away into the wilderness. The blood of the slain goat was taken into the Holy of Holies behind the sacred veil and sprinkled on the mercy seat, the lid of the Ark of the Covenant. Later in the ceremonies of the day, the high priest confessed the sins of the Israelites to Yahweh, placing them figuratively on the head of the other goat, the azazel scapegoat, who took them away never to be seen again. The sin of the nation was thus atoned for by the Lord's goat, and the azazel goat. In Christianity, this process prefigures the sacrifice of Christ on the cross through which God has been propitiated and sins can be expiated. Jesus Christ is seen to have fulfilled all of the biblical types: the high priest who officiates at the ceremony, the Lord's goat that deals with the pollution of sin, and a scapegoat that removes the burden of sin. Christians believe that sinners who own their guilt and confess their sins, exercising faith and trust in the person and sacrifice of Jesus, are forgiven their sins. Seventh-day Adventist Christians understand this symbolism differently. As the azazel goat was traditionally understood by Jews of antiquity and Christians of the Reformation to represent Satan, Seventh-day Adventists' views harmonize with those of the Reformation time period. Since the second goat was sent away to perish, the word scapegoat has developed to indicate a person who is blamed and punished for the sins of others. References. External links: the dictionary definition of scapegoat at Wiktionary.